Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another session on Hinduism. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. We meet here every Saturday, at 2 o'clock UK time, and this session will run for about 1 hour. The format is generally we would look at a video to discuss one particular topic of the day, and we'll have a little discussion around that topic. And in the meanwhile, we will wait for you, the viewers, to post your questions in the comments area. You can be watching us live on YouTube at youtube.com/Hindu Academy, or you would be watching us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hindu Academy. And now the latest addition to that is our Twitter feed at Hindu Academy as well. So let's get started without any further ado. Let me introduce the video of today.
If experience is such a crucial part of making spiritual progress, why do so many people think that belief is the conclusion of religion?
You see, whenever I get these kind of fiery questions, I fall back on my mentor. Oh, please, Vivekanand, sort me out, help me out. I have no answers. What do I tell them now? And I tell you what Vivekananda says. He says, belief is the starting in your spiritual journey. Belief is the starting point. In every field, you require some particular hypothesis to start your journey. It may be very crude, it may be rubbish, but you need some starting point, hypothesis. It may be fairy tale, but you need something. So he said, begin your journey with any belief system, but don't stop there. Belief is the beginning of your journey. You shouldn't just believe and die. If that is real, then you should try and proceed to its destination that this belief system is pointing at. You must progress to the destination. Belief is the beginning of the journey. Realization is the destination. And it is at the level of realization we see all the different pathways or different approaches to spiritual, different religions, including the theistic religion like Hinduism and non-theistic like Buddhism and Jainism. They meet up at the level of acceptance. How do I know? Look at the lives of all these spiritual personalities from any religion, say Sufi tradition, wherever. Look at their lives. And look at and compare them. You see, they all kind of have the same smile on their face. They are charged up. These guys are on the same thing. I shouldn't say that. But they are on the same thing. You can feel that. You can see that at experiential level, they are at the same wavelength. It is when they try and use words to express. One will use, Aramaic, or somebody will use Sanskrit. They start using different languages, different interpreters, and then the philosophers get in, the theologians, and they mess us up. They try and, probe doctrines and dogmas, and they try and stuff us into that. And we are stuffed. Because then, you see, we can't make head or tails of it, and we are at loggerheads with people of other religion as well as people of no religion. We are at loggerheads. Because we try to give, not only we lost the experience dimension completely, we even let go of the expression your prophets gave you, how they, look, suppose you push me, none of you have done it so far. Suppose you push me and say, I don't want to hear about spirit, I want to experience, I want to go near it. I will say, in that case, study the lives of this kind of great personalities of the world. And you see, when they are charged up about spirituality and they're trying to give expression to their experience, try and catch on to those words. Try and latch on to those words. That's the nearest you can get. Because you don't have that experience. But when they have the experience, that giving it to you, you say, I got that part. So you got something to hang on to and then to progress. So go for the words. Again, you need those exact words of these great prophets, and you see if they don't charge you. I mean, look here, Manish Bhai is here. Whenever he sends me an email, at the end of it says, they alone live who live for others, the rest are more dead than alive. I say, okay, Manish Bhai. You see, he has caught on, latched on to the saying of Swami Vivekananda. And look at the language. They alone live who live for others, the rest are more dead than alive. Marda walking about. He's telling the rest of us. Until you live life fully in a very integrated manner with the rest of humanity, you are not lived. Again, you see, I use this children's example, but look how powerful it is. I ask children, look, suppose you have a birthday and your mommy gives you a big cake. And they say, okay, Dikra, nice big cake, chocolate cake in the dining room, just for you. The son will say, okay, being a young chap, he'll say, okay, I'll stuff myself. But then I ask the same child, suppose you had 8 friends turn up, and mom said, okay, here's your chocolate cake, but now here 8 friends from your school are here, and they all come, yeah, and you all sit around the table, and you all get a slice, and you crunch and munch and make a mess, crumbs all over, and you are eating and munching and looking at each other and smiling. Which one would you prefer? Eating cake by yourself? Or why do you have parties? You share. You live life more intensely when you share. You don't need to learn high philosophy. Just ask children, go to children's party, you see their faces, you know they're having the best time. When they're sharing and looking at each other, when he's munching and I'm munching, we are saying, yeah. You live life doubly. Look, do you know what spirituality is? Multiplying. Multiplying. You see, this is what spirituality is, multiplying. Not living in this one little cage, but living in everybody. Living with everybody and in everybody. Living through everybody. Multiplying myself. Seeing myself multiplied in every living thing is spirituality. Intensifying the level of experience. So this is how, if you like, religion becomes real.
Fabulous. What a great video to revisit from J-Bhai. And without taking much more time, I'd like us to just jump in with the discussion. So I'd call upon Manish Bhai and the team to get started with today's discussions, and then we'll take it on from there.
Thank you, Nishit Bhai. Namaste viewers, thank you for joining us today. Wonderful to see Jai Bhai's video and his wisdom. Some of these videos on Swami Vivekananda is in our YouTube playlist called Story of Vivekananda. So please do go ahead and watch. We got about 25 videos there, all such wonderful material. Do go and enjoy it. We take the first question from today based on this video. So Sita Ben, Abrahamic religions say, belief in Jesus or belief in Muhammad, Islam, is sufficient for one to reach heavens. Whilst Hinduism, we say ultimate goal is spiritual experience. Are we not making hard for ourselves?
So I think the important thing to remember is that a spiritual experience is such an intangible thing to explain or to express through words, because words feel so limited compared to what an actual spiritual experience is like. That Hinduism says it's not enough to just believe in the cake, you need to eat your cake as well. So it's very important from the Indic perspective to have a taste of that amazing nectar. And the way we do that is we reach out to teachers and prophets who have had those experiences and use them as signposts to sort of explain, this is how you do it, this is how we've done it, please go ahead and please try. And in a way, that's the empowering message of Hinduism, is that, look, you can also become a prophet as well. So please do go ahead and do it yourself and surpass us. So that's the unique thing about these Indic traditions, which we need to sort of focus on and not just think, oh, belief is the conclusion, like Dad was saying. Belief is just the starting point of your journey. You can only actually know it when you can actually experience it. So that's the key message. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, no, quite nice. The lovely video actually is so beautifully said. I think that's the main thing to remember. A couple of extra points I can add is that, one thing that Jai Bhai mentioned, the idea of connectedness, that's quite important, because if you look at the modern giants, like say Ramakrishna Paramahans, Raman Maharishi, one thing they did was that not only aspire to spirituality or aspire, to experience, but also to see the same divine in everybody else and work as a collective, in a sense like collective. You'd be surprised. It just reminds me of a story of Raman Maharishi, that quite often people go and see him on Arunachal Hills, where he used to stay, and sometimes he's actually playing with little children marbles, and old men playing marbles with very small children, little boys. Or sometimes he's marrying dolls together with little girls. And people look at it and say, look, what's wrong with this guy? Yeah, what is he doing? But this is somebody who sees the divine in everybody. I think the olden days when you had this rishi going over in the cave and mating on his own, not linked to anybody else, that is very different from the way it's today. Like today, the fact that you connect with everybody else and see the divine in everybody else, that is actually also helps you charge you spiritually as well. And as I said, share this idea and interact on the spiritual level with everybody. And that's the kind of very important thing to do as well. Yeah.
That's wonderful answers there, Sitab and Vijay Bhai. So, Jai Bhai touched on it as well, that if we really, really want to have this spiritual experience, how to go about it. What's your take on that, Vijay Bhai?
So the thing is, with spiritual experience, I think one thing you have to have, as Sita mentioned, is some sort of belief or some sort of aspirations. I mean, like the story of the Buddha, I love it so much because when Buddha went out in his soul, that the suffering and people, and he goes, "There's more to this." So he had this belief that there's something out there I need to aspire towards, and he used that belief to really work hard at it, eventually experience what the true thing is. So we all have to have. I mean, look, we all have it. At some point, we feel that why am I here? What is this consciousness about? Why do I, when I go in a tree in the forest, I feel so peaceful? That's the kind of belief start, right? You have some belief that there's something out there which is bigger than us or something more to us than just ourselves. It could be a God as well. It doesn't matter what you believe. But at some point, you say, no, I have to find that out. When you do that step, that is kind of the experiential step, yes? And I think that's what all Indic faiths, not Hinduism, actually, Buddhism, Jainism, even the experience, and you'll be surprised. Also in Islam and Christianity, there are some of these movements as well, which kind of believe in the idea of experiential. It's not only us, yes, although it's more common in the Indic faith there as well. Yeah. Sita?
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is that you can only start your spiritual journey once you've got that genuine sort of inclination within yourself. If you are still in that phase of your spiritual journey where you think there's no point in doing anything spiritual at all, I might as well just enjoy the world, enjoy how things are, enjoy my life, then please go for it. That's what Hinduism says. Go for it. Just, sort of experience everything that you need to in order for you to then come to that point where you're like, hang on, surely there must be more to life than this. Everything is so transient, temporary, and things that we think will lead to happiness are actually not leading me to happiness ultimately. So the life sort of becomes empty. And when you sort of realize that life seems to be empty without something deeper, that's when you can begin your spiritual journey. And that's when you can start searching out teachers, guides, prophets to sort of guide you on that particular journey. And that's the only way that you're going to make that sort of progress, is once you've kind of lived out your life, you've lived everything, you've experienced it, but found that it's not fulfilling. That's when you can sort of start your spiritual journey. As we were saying, belief. So you start off with believing what these prophets and saints are saying, but then also follow their guidance and become a prophet yourself. That's the ultimate realization.
Wonderful answer there, Sita Ben. Let's take a new question from Facebook. This question from Sweta Goyal. She asked it early in the morning. What is the use of Vedas in our modern life nowadays? How can we relate to Vedas in our practical day-to-day life? Can you please elaborate? Sita Ben, do you want to go on first on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best sort of source of looking at even like a summary of the Vedas is the Bhagavad Gita. So it's kind of like a condensed version of all the sort of key teachings that we get in the Vedas. And it shows us how to live a spiritual life in a very practical way. So it gives us a number of different tools, different pathways to God, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Raja Yoga. It tells us about all these different pathways, and we have to choose the pathway that suits us the best. We may be very devotional by nature, we might be very active by nature, so you just choose the pathway that suits you the best. And obviously the key teachings of the Vedas, which we have to fall back on, and that's the sort of ultimate realization, is discovering your true self, discovering who you truly are. And the Bhagavad Gita uses the example of Krishna saying, "Come through me, and I can show you the pathway." But the other thing is, it's not necessarily just the image of Krishna. It could be any particular form of God you like. It could be Atman and Brahman, sort of discovering the ultimate reality as your true self as well. So the Bhagavad Gita does give us that sort of summary of the Vedas and shows us how to put religion into practice in our everyday lives. But there are also so many other sort of ways of thinking about God other than Krishna. That's also important, but there's lots within Hinduism. So we're in a way spoiled for choice. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think you're right. We have quite a big choice. So I would say that, agree with Sita, that the Vedas are really seen as the philosophical scriptures, and the Gita is more like the practical application. So that's the kind of the main thing to speak on. I mean, so yeah, I think the Gita has got such a diverse kind of options that you have, and it's quite somewhat tricky to choose. But you just see your personal character, your personal inclination, and choose the best path that you can to progress spiritually. Just one point to keep in mind, that the Vedic scriptures are very vast, and they have got collection experiences of vast number of diverse people. So when you read them, you have to read them very carefully and understand that actually some of these verses in the Veda are actually from a particular time and space, and then they have a different understanding because of quite explaining that particular time. So you have to be careful when you read the Vedas as well, and make sure you analyze them and enter in a modern context if you do that. Yeah. But I would say Gita is kind of a very good point to start. Yeah.
Okay, great answer there, Vijay bhai and Sita Ben. So coming back to day-to-day life, so that will depend obviously on the path you choose for yourself, by bhakti or karma, or but how do we apply it in day-to-day life, Sita Ben?
So I guess it depends on your particular path that you choose. So say, for example, you're drawn to the Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. So the way that you can sort of infuse that into your everyday life is by saying, I offer everything that I do to God. I offer the fruits of all my actions to God. I spend time worshipping that particular form of God, building a personal relationship with that form of God. And wherever you can, just taking a pause and chanting the name of that particular God as well. It's very important, and it sort of makes spirituality real for you. And actually, there's a beautiful analogy that Sharada Devi talks about, that if you constantly handle a flower, and then if you smell your hand afterwards, it smells like flowers. So in a way, constant remembrance of God, in a way, some of that spirituality will rub off onto you as well. So that's how you can make religion practical from that particular point of view. Or say if you follow the path of karma yoga, you're very active by nature. Again, just make sure that you see everyone that you are serving as God. And that's really spiritual living. That's like what Dad was saying in the video. You multiply yourself, you see yourself in everybody that you're serving. And that's the way that you make spiritual progress in that particular pathway. So the Bhagavad Gita does give us practical ways that we can infuse spirituality into our everyday lives. Vijay bhai?
No, I agree. I think that pretty much covers it. All I can say, it's not easy. We shouldn't think that it's easy, because the life really is so hectic and so busy, running around behind our children or work and all that. So it's always good to keep some time on the side to just do what Sita said. Get some time on the side and to think about higher things, and think about basically some discipline to also progress spiritually. That's all I can add on that. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay bhai, Sita Ben. Just one more thing to add on. You know, some people nowadays, if they're not inclined towards bhakti or karma, some people tend to, get some time and do meditation.
Yeah.
So that is available as well. So, and make it a regular practice will help you progress. So that's my take on that. Let's take another question. So Shreya, that was the question. Okay. Meena Chowda is asking an interesting question. She's saying, if we have made God in our image, then how did Ramakrishna and Vivekananda see Mata Kali? Vijay bhai?
Well, I think it kind of answers the question in a sense that, so I think you don't forget, I mean, if you look at Ramakrishna Paramhans, he actually grew into basically Ma Kali in the temple in Dakshineshwar.
Mhm.
So the thing is that he was so spiritually kind of attached to the image. It is no surprise he saw Ma Kali, yes, as a divine, yes. But as I said, it could be any other image. I mean, Vivekananda used to visit Dakshin as well. So seeing Ma Kali, divine Ma Kali, is quite natural. And if you notice that any other great leaders or spiritual people, the image they're attached to is the one they'll see. But ultimately, they will also see more than the image. They'll see the greatness of his divinity. That's what we eventually see. So it's not only seeing Ma Kali itself as an image, you see the greatness behind the Ma Kali or greatness behind any deity. And the greatness you see transcends that image eventually. It's like somebody, you like somebody not because how he looks like ultimately, you like somebody of what he represents and what he sees. Yes. And that's the ultimate, I guess. But in this case, I'm not surprised because they've been visiting Dakshin so often. I think even Ramakrishna Paramahansa also asked Vivekananda to go and ask what he wants to Ma Kali. Of course, he forgot because he's so engrossed in Ma Kali. So they've been growing up with this temple. So it's quite natural that they see the image of Ma Kali. Yes. Sita?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think maybe it's kind of a deliberate choice that Ramakrishna was attracted to the Mother Goddess because it's the age of women now. And it's also something unique because a lot of saints and prophets in previous times, they have experienced God as Ram or as Krishna, and it's all male, male, male. So in a way, it's probably time to say, hang on, look, you can actually see the Mother Goddess, you can actually see God as a female, and that's a very real thing. So in a way, perhaps it was a deliberate choice, who knows?
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben and Vijay Bhai. I'll go on a bit more on that one. Ramakrishna, as Guru, Totapuri, he was a great Advait Vedantist, and he experienced Mother Goddess Kali as well. So, you want to say something about that story, Sitaben?
Yeah, so this is the thing. So Totapuri was very much like he was like, enlightened, experienced, but his main focus was on Advait Vedanta, which is thinking about God not as an image or a form, just focus on your true self and identifying yourself as Atman and Brahman. That was his focus. And then he came across Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna was saying, "Oh, Mother Goddess, Kali, Kali." He was obsessed with Mother Goddess. And Totapuri said, "No, focus on this." And I think what he did, he got a sharp piece of glass and rubbed it into his forehead. Focus here, focus here. And he said, "No, the Mother Goddess keeps appearing before me. I can't get rid of that image of the Mother Goddess." And he said, "Cut through the Mother Goddess. You need to experience this different pathway of making spiritual progress." And of course, when he got there, he was stuck in that sort of state of enlightenment for such a long time that it was hard to snap him out of that particular experience. So it's just a fascinating story. But even Ramakrishna, he was so attached to the Mother Goddess, and it was so hard for him to break away. But he was able to do that and show that you can actually make spiritual progress through God as the Mother Goddess or God as being without form as well. Vijay Bhai?
I think you're quite brilliantly. All I know is that in the story, I remember that after he experienced that and he stayed for such a long time, I think Totapuri just walked out. He realized that I'm messing with a different person altogether. Yes, yeah. He realized he was far more advanced than he was. So he just walked away silently, just disappeared basically. So anyway, yeah, but that's all I can add on that. Yeah.
That's yes, it's a wonderful story. I just want to add that Ramakrishna was such a spiritual giant. He could experience God in all these different modes, and in a way, he reconciled the two paths, that Advait and Dvait, which seemed so different, so far apart. He sort of put them together and said, "Look, it's one path, one God." And you can use various ways. So that's the grandeur of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, I suppose. We'll take a next question. Samarth Misra is asking, the superconscious experience that our ancient rishis and the spiritual seekers experience are just hallucinations? If not, then how can we conclude that they are experiencing the truth?
Yeah. Okay. Very valid question. I'm really glad you asked this question. The thing is that this is not unique to Hinduism. I mean, since ancient times, if you look at the Indian American traditions or even look at the African tradition, they've all actually done that. They've actually taken hallucination drugs as well to alter their experiences. And then, like the shaman tradition, shamanism was practiced worldwide. Even in the Rig Veda, you'll be surprised. There are places where, under very special conditions, soma is taken to have a different experience, altered experience, but under very strict conditions. The question is, how do you know if they're hallucinating or not? Very wide question. I tell you how. Look at their lives and how they've changed. That's the only way you will know. If it's just a fleeting experience, like some people take drugs and they go in a very funny, strange state. But when they come back down, they're totally miserable. They have huge withdrawal problems. But the spiritual giant seekers, you don't see that. You see a huge change in lives. If it's Buddha, Christ, doesn't matter. Or Ramakrishna Paramas. And actually, Ramana Maharshi is a very good example. Once he achieved this enlightenment, his life changed. It was so hard for him to see anybody as a human being. Everybody to him was divine. And you can actually feel that next to them. You actually feel that charge, spiritual charge. I mean, Vivekananda is a very classic example. Somebody who is totally, agnostic, atheist. And even when he met Ramakrishna Paramahansa for the first time, when he said, I see God more clearly than you, he just said, oh, come on. And he walked away immediately. He said, that's not possible. But somehow I always felt attracted to him. Why? Because he saw that in his life, he's totally changed. And that's something you'll see. The ones who hallucinate will just be there for a while and they'll have problems and they'll just be, but once you've achieved spiritual experience, their lives are totally different. They live on a divine level. And that's the, I guess, the best kind of evidence you can have. Sita, please expand on that. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you've covered it basically. So I think the way that you can tell if somebody has had that spiritual experience is, like you were saying, they're spiritually charged. And it reminds me of the lectures that Swami Vivekananda used to give. I actually even forget that, even him basically saying, sisters and brothers of America, the whole audience stood up and started clapping. When you look at the words, you're like, what? He just said that? That's just such a standard sort of entry to a speech. And it made people start, they were applauding and they were gushing. They were just in amazement because they could feel the spiritual charge of such a spiritual giant. And you're not going to get that with somebody who's just hallucinating and imagining things and thinking like that. So you have to really sort of see the sort of reaction of the people around them as well, and the impact that these people have for hundreds of years. If somebody is hallucinating, that person is going to fizzle away and no one is going to remember that person. But the fact that they've for hundreds of years inspired and influenced people is a sign that there must have been something spiritually charged there.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben and Vijay Bhai. Next question is from Raj Kumar. He's saying, let's assume Kalima and Shiva are real. Then so many temples were destroyed in India and in other countries. So why didn't they save their temples? Why could they not be saved? Vijay Bhai?
Okay, first things, yes, just to mention that the temples we talk about are actually places which help us connect with spirituality. I know it's very barbaric, cruel, destroy this place of worship, but the fact is, even if not destroyed normally, time will destroy them. That's a fact, right? But your divine nature, your Atman, which is transcends everything, will always remain. So look, no matter how grand your temples are, they're ultimately just tools to use for spirituality, right? If one temple goes, build a new one. I know there are a lot of other beliefs who believe in conquest by material power. That has never been the goal of Hinduism. It's true that great kings have built great temples. I mean, even to this day, I get inspired by the Angkor Wat temples, which are built by the great, kings of Khmer kings, yes. But even they, through time, if you look at it, the trees had grown and they're crumbling. That's how nature is, reality is like that, yeah. Doesn't mean that we should destroy temples, obviously we should use them. But I think we can't compare the material with the spiritual. That's something we have to try and separate that out, yes. I know I've had people saying that, oh, your religion, look, if religion was true, God would save the temple. If religion was true, God would save this particular object, this particular artifact. It doesn't work like that. Artifacts are ultimately material. So I think you have to keep the two separate, yes. Yeah, that's what I can add on that, yeah. Sita?
Yeah, I think we have to make sure that, we don't get fixated on oh, God is only in that particular image and he's not anywhere else. And if that particular image is destroyed, then God is destroyed or whatever. We have to really sort of step away from thinking like that and say, you know, we are using this material form to build a relationship with something divine through that particular form. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's obviously unfortunate if it gets broken or damaged, but that's not the end of the world. We can produce another one. We can produce many of them and use all of them as tools to build a relationship with God. So that's the important thing, is although it's tragic that these things happen, we just have to carry on and build new tools to make spiritual progress.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben and Vijay Bhai. Ritu Sharma has asked, she's saying she's come across the wonderful videos of Jai Bhai and learned so much. She would like her 7-year-old to learn more about Hinduism. Is the e-learning course start from which age? So I'll just answer that quickly. E-learning course is more advanced. So I think for 7-year-old, it may not be that suitable, but you can learn that and have a look if it's suitable for him. Another resource we have is this primary Hinduism book. And I think that would be more suitable for 7-year-old child. So I would suggest you go to our website, www.hindu-academy.com. And there is a link for that book in that on our website. So get that book and suggest you read with him your book and discuss with that. So you are able to explain to him in his terms. So I think that would be more suitable. And maybe after 2-3 years when he's ready, he can do the course. I think that would be the way to do that one. Okay, we take a next question. Kenya Johnson saying, I naturally came to the concept of Hinduism and I built a relationship with Vishnu. I only learned of Hinduism 3 months ago. Vishnu is passive, so why would this series of events occur for someone? Sita Ben?
So I didn't catch the question. So Vishnu is passive?
Yeah, he's saying...
Oh, whoops, it's got crashed. Hang on, let's see if we can find that video, that question. These events occur for someone.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Vishnu is.
I can ask you one question.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yep. So we have a question from Sings Miranda, who's saying, "Can you be a Hindu and an atheist at the same time?"
Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I can go. Absolutely, you can. Yes, that's one thing interesting, because just to mention, I don't know if you know, but the 6 darshans we have, the Sankhya, we have the Hinduism can be seen in 6 broad categories. We have the Nyaya darshan, the Vaisheshik darshan, Sankhya darshan, Yoga darshan, and the Mimamsa and the Vedanta. The first 4 darshan, at least the first 3 for sure, they don't even mention a God. You'd be surprised. The Nyaya philosophy or the Vaisheshik, even the Sankhya, they just analyze the universe as it is and why we are conscious and what's the link. And they look from that angle, from a spiritual angle, who are we and why are we self-aware? And take it from that angle. So in effect, it's actually built in, although it's very popular for most people to have a kind of a theistic mode, which is fine. But the atheistic mode has been part of Hinduism since very ancient time. It's not something new. So you see, I know quite a few Hindus who actually say that I'm an atheist Hindu, and so be it. I mean, progress in that mode if you feel fit. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's normal, yes. Although it's not common, it's normal. Sita?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And a lot of these concepts of Atman and Brahman, they don't have any sort of particular form of God sort of associated with them. So you're welcome to make spiritual progress and find God, the ultimate reality appearing as the universe or as your true self. And actually, you don't even need the tops and tails of religion to make spiritual progress at all. Like we've discussed before, any sort of disciplined human endeavor, you don't need to believe in a God to love art or to love music or dance or science, whatever it is. So you're welcome to make spiritual progress, and it's not going to hinder your progress at all, whether or not you believe in God. So that's the broadness of Hinduism that we can focus on. I think Manish Bhai is back.
Okay, is it time to ask a question again, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a question from Caroline Benish. She's from Dublin, the author of Rainbow Warriors. Okay, she's just giving a comment. So wonderful to see you.
Caroline actually joined us once on a live Q&A with Jaybai before. So she's joining us today again. So she's just sharing her greetings with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And she kindly sent me a copy of her book, which I'm so grateful for. I'm going to show my daughter tomorrow, so she'll be very happy. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you, Caroline. We take our next question from Mazuki Tapwater. He's saying, is semen retention a mandatory part of Hindu teachings? I'm from a pagan background and always found the concept rather odd. Much love from a pagan.
Sorry, I didn't catch that fully, but
this is the concept of, I think, harnessing or harnessing sexual energy. That's what I think is the concept, is the question. Is that something that is mandatory in Hinduism, or is it something that is not? That's the question.
okay, I can tricky one. I'll try and answer that one. Okay, first of all, just to mention that when you say harnessing sexual energy, how does it work? Look, there are many old tantric traditions, yes, and what Hinduism says, the mainstream actually says that to harness the energy is to harness sexual energy and make it into a celibate lifestyle. To have the discipline. I know it doesn't sell well in this day and age. That's what Hinduism actually promotes. It said, look, the idea is that we all have energies in us, energy of procreation. How can I harness that energy and make it as part of my discipline, give me strength to progress spiritually? And not only that, we also encourage that in the Brahmacharya ashram, when children are studying in school, we encourage a lot that try and focus and harness all your energies, be it what kind of energy you have, anger, hate, selfishness, even sexual energy, and harness it and make it into a spiritual discipline. That's a very tricky part. And that's one of the things we encourage. Although we accept that if you're a normal person, you will have desires to fulfill that, so be it. But the idea that is some sort of a tantra, which is the main goal of life, then it's not so. I mean, the reason why we have this, people ask the question Hinduism, because Hinduism is an open tradition. And we have never persecuted any guru, acharya who has done this kind of old tantric, unorthodox kind of traditions. We have the Kama Sutra and all kind of scriptures. We have never persecuted them. Doesn't make them mainstream. I know some people make them very popular in the West, but Hinduism actually values celibacy and how to harness all the different energies, including your sexual energy, towards celibacy. And why? Because it helps you progress spiritually rather than getting stuck in the material kind of world. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very, very broad question and not that straightforward sometimes. Sita?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've touched on it. Celibacy is the key way that we can make spiritual progress, and that's more the mainstream Hindu belief. Even though it's a very difficult pathway to follow. But then Hinduism says the way you harness it is you kind of stay loyal to your partner. You use that as a foundation for society, a stable building block, so that the rest of the community can benefit and you can be of help to everybody. And I think another important thing to mention is that how can you make spiritual progress when you're attached to your body or to somebody else? It's not going to work. So the whole point of spirituality is to overcome your material frame and sort of realize who you actually are. So how can you do that? By focusing on the body. So I think that's the main focus of Hinduism, is that we have to draw ourselves away from the body rather than sort of drawing towards another body.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay and Sita Ben. So yes, the focus is once you get more spiritual, you naturally move away from that and naturally go towards celibacy, and that's the way to do it. I think you can't force it, so it has to happen naturally. I think that's my take on it. Charmaine is asking, why do I weep during deep meditation and see deities come alive? Sita Ben?
Oh, wow. You're very lucky if you get that kind of experience. That's amazing. I guess it means that you are making spiritual progress, because you're able to sort of touch base with something that's deeper than sort of thinking, oh, what am I going to have for lunch? You're actually able to go deeper and control your mind and focus on higher things, on the deities that you're seeing. So I think that's an amazing step, and we really wish you all the very best on your spiritual journey. So the whole point of meditation is to sort of forget about all our mundane day-to-day life and realize who we actually are. And it looks like you are making progress on that journey. So thank you for sharing. Vijay Bhai?
I know nothing to add. All I'll say is don't let anybody stop you from that experience. Yes, make sure you continue with that. Yes, it's amazing to hear that. Thank you. Yeah,
That's great to hear. Wonderful. Next question from Ali Sebastian. Is there room for atheism in Hinduism and Advaita Vedanta? Sita? Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of also touched on that already. This idea that atheism is actually not something anti-Hinduism at all. It's actually very much integrated within Hindu philosophy as well. And you don't even need to believe in a god to make spiritual progress or to become enlightened at all. And you can use so many different endeavors to make spiritual progress, and they don't necessarily need to involve a god at all, like art and music and science.
Vijay Bhai?
No, I kind of agree with Sita. Just say that. Yeah. We just covered the earlier side. So yeah.
Okay. So we take a next question from Om Ketz. He's saying because God is unlimited in power, having a physical form would indicate that God is limiting self, and as a result, is not possible for God to have a physical form. What's your take on that? Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, okay. So thing is, look, as Chief Bhai uses his example, he loves his example, that if God cannot do something, then he's missing a button, basically. Yes, yeah. God can take a physical, look, the thing is, we ourselves as human bodies limits us in many ways. So one of the best ways God can interact with us is to limit himself and come and play with us at our level. So to say that God cannot, the finite cannot become the finite in itself means that God is not all powerful and ultimately, all supreme. Then he's missing something. Yeah, God should be able to do both, be infinite and finite as per devotees. So I think it's the other way around. It makes more sense that God can be both infinite and finite, rather than saying he can never be finite. That means you're telling God he can't do something, which is not really true. Saying he's all powerful, really. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you basically covered it. If God isn't all powerful, then surely that means that he doesn't have the power to then take on a finite form, but he does. So, and we use the example of ice and water. It's the same thing, God with form and without form. It's just sort of frozen into the form of the deity's desire, really. And that's how we sort of believe in spirituality, kind of. Spirituality infuses everything, whether you believe in God with form or without form. And that's it, really.
Yes, wonderful answer there. So we'll take a next question from Arsenal Fanboy. No, I think that's just a comment. Okay, Shariar Cool is asking, what is Hindu view on agnostic and atheism? I think we covered that already.
Yes, already. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another one, he's asking why God created universe.
Yeah.
Sita?
Yeah, so I think even in the sort of Hindu scriptures, that's something that comes up, and the answer is we don't know. But we're just honest about it. We're blunt about it. We don't know why God created the universe, all the complexities of the world, and we have no idea because God is pure and pristine and perfect in himself or herself. So why was there a need to create all of this palaver everywhere? We don't know, frankly. And I think also when people sort of go into a spiritual experience and they may go in thinking, I'm going to ask why. I think the question just falls away when they have that spiritual experience. It no longer feels relevant. So I think the honest answer is we don't know. Vijay Bhai?
I think you're a very good point, Sita. I mean, having said that, just to mention that actually this question has been deeply thought of by the great, ancient acharyas of India. If you look at, say, Kapil Muni, What he said was that both these are eternal truths. Prakriti, which is matter, is truth, and so is Purusha, with both truth. They just are both there. And in effect, they actually interact when the gunas go out of kind of sync. They interact and they form this universe. It just spontaneously happens, and we just find our way out and realize actually we are not there. And then you have Shankaracharya who say actually there's only one ultimate. The idea of this universe creation, it looks real, but it's not real. So we have very many kind of views on how this has been tackled. But what, as Sita said, most acharyas find that when you have this experience, this universe doesn't exist, it disappears. So the question just falls on the wayside, and you're actually not part and parcel of that. So we actually accept it's spontaneous. We don't believe that it's created, because to say it's created means that there's an entity which actually kind of flows in time. And we know that the Atman Brahman transcends time. So we just say spontaneous. And that's what I think Nashadya Shukta in the Rig Veda actually mentioned, that it just comes spontaneously and we interact and it just goes spontaneously. Yeah. Bit much like modern science, really. Yes. Big Bang and the Big Crunch or whatever. Yeah. But is ultimately, I think this is one of the fundamental questions which all we know is that it's there, but we can't really answer it clearly. But if you achieve spiritual experience and you achieve moksha, then that question becomes irrelevant, basically. Yeah. That's what we can add on that. Yeah.
So, Vijay, sticking with the theme of thoughts to ponder about, I've always been thinking about something, which is, how does one define success? Now, for a businessman, success could be the growth of his empire. For somebody, let's say a family woman, it would be maybe the growth and wellness of her family. For somebody
Yes.
who is ill, it might be the success could be beating an illness.
Yes.
For a teacher, success could be seeing their students thrive and succeed in life. So success can be different for different people. But what, in your opinion, is the best measure of success for people generally?
Okay. Yeah, I think success is a very subjective term, and it's very relative as well. It depends on your state of which state you are in and what your achievements are. I think anything which endeavors you to ultimately progress as a human being, and more importantly as a spiritual being, is success. So if you're ill and you say, look, if I had a healthy body, I could do something better with my life, I would help people. That's a very good point of success. I know that if you say, look, if I get a little bit better and have some money, I will feed the dogs on the street. That's success. So success, even the tiniest amount of good you do is a form of success. Of course, if you're a very big person, a very rich person, then success will be measured accordingly. But anything that makes you progress as a human being, not only as yourself, but society as large, progress forward in a be it material initially, but eventually spiritually, all that is seen as success. So success is general term, but it's always moving forward for everybody. But think in those terms, I think. Yeah, positivity, as a Sita.
Yeah, I think you basically covered it. There's not much more I can say. Success is measured in a variety of different ways, a material way, but also in terms of mental well-being and all of that as well, spiritual growth. So I guess your level of contentment is also a measure of success, whether you feel you're fulfilling your potential, you're doing the best that you can for yourself, your family, and everyone around you as well. So I guess that level of contentment is also a measure of success.
Wonderful answer there, Sita Ben and Vijay Bhai. We got a question from Sachin S. Gurumat. He's saying, is spirituality much superior than being religious? Sita Ben?
It depends on your perspective and where you are on your spiritual journey. You may not have begun your spiritual journey at all yet. You may be just focusing on material gain, material wealth, because that's the level that you're at that moment. It doesn't mean that you're better or worse than anybody else. This is just the journey that all of us are actually on. All of us have had to go through a phase where, we're living a material life and we feel that that's all there is to life. There's nothing more, surely. And then you could sort of hit a point where you're like, I've had enough of this, this ride in the world. I want to sort of find the sort of true depth of happiness rather than just the sort of temporary happiness that you get from the material world. So I think that's the point where you sort of start making your spiritual journey, and then you just sort of progress. So it's not a matter of good or bad, worse or better. That's just the journey that all of us have made and that we are on at the moment. Vijay Bhai?
No, I think, Sita, you've got it quite pristinely. Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Okay, wonderful answer there, Sitaben. An interesting question from a viewer is asking, why don't you all have tilak or vibhuti on your heads? Sitaben?
Okay.
Or Vijay?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead,
Sita.
go ahead. No, you
Okay,
go
okay.
ahead.
The thing is, actually, I do tilak. Sometimes I do tilaks, but I have it's my tradition. I have this kanthi in my neck. It's from Ramanuja tradition, which is an artifact of it. But having said, I mean, this artifact is basically two strings, but tied together. Is classic Ramanuja, which says that
Mhm.
that God and man, although they look separate, they're actually bound to each other, eternally bound. And that's what comes from Ramanuja tradition. But having said that, it's just something that reminds you of God. Doesn't matter what artifacts you don't have to have any either as well. There's no harm. So any artifact which helps you, if you put tilak, tilak is also very good. And I'm really impressed when I see people with these huge tilaks in India. It's so beautiful. It looks so nice. So I love it. I'm not against that. I don't do it that often. I do it when I go to temple sometimes. But I think anything that makes you spiritual, it doesn't have to be mandatory. While I know there's some sort of sects which make it mandatory, that's fine too as well. So I think we should allow for that flexibility. But one thing we have to be careful about is not to use the artifacts for kind of chants or magical things, which actually, when you think there's power in the stone, which transcends, if it's an object which helps the spirit, that's fine. But if you believe that there's magic in the stone, then you have to be very careful. That's where idolatry comes in. We don't believe in idols yet. So then you become an idol. That's what you be careful about. But I'm not against it. I think it's good if people have it. And if you don't have it, then so be it as well. So very good question. I do have one, but that's something I helps to remind me that I'm tied to God. Yes, but that's it. But not everybody has to have that. Yeah. So yeah, it's your choice. Sita.
Yeah, I think you basically covered it. So it's Hinduism offers that flexibility. You can have all these symbols and marks, or you can choose not to have any. And one example is Sri Ramakrishna. He was, immersed in spirituality for his whole life, but he didn't wear anything. He didn't have any marks on his forehead, nothing. He didn't feel a need for it. So Hinduism offers that flexibility. You can have it if you feel it helps you towards your spiritual journey, and you don't have to have it if you feel it doesn't particularly serve any purpose for you. So that's the openness of Hinduism, really.
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben and Vijay Bhai. Same goes with me. I've when I was getting into Hinduism, I felt I should be putting tilak on wherever I go. But then I said, why do that? What is the need for it? I didn't feel I needed to. So that's my reason. I don't think it's necessary. If you think it's necessary, you can. We are a democracy, and that's how we are doing it. Next question from Mazuki. He's saying, I'm rather attached to a European deity, Odin, and I'm rather fond of Bhakti Yoga with him. Can Bhakti Yoga be performed outside of Hinduism? Vijay Bhai?
Absolutely. By the way, I know of Odin because I used to work in Sweden for many, many years in my younger age. And I actually used to love the gods, the Swedish Viking gods, because they're so much tied to nature. And also the idea of, physically attached to nature and the idea of interaction. So please go ahead, so be it. If you love Odin and you want to follow Bhakti mark through Odin, then I'm pleased for you and go ahead. No problem with that. Yes, I don't have any problem with that. Yeah, Sita.
Yeah, I think you've covered it. So it doesn't need to be any particular Hindu form of God. It could be any form of God that you feel drawn to. So, like you pour water into the ice mold, you pour it in whatever mold that you want it to be. That's totally fine. So if that's your way of making spiritual progress, then please do go for it.
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben and Vijay Bhai. Next question from Rahul Singh. He's saying, there are gurus that claim that mantras can cure cancer, money problems, etc. Philosophically, how does this fit in with Hinduism? Sitaben?
I think you have to be very careful with a lot of these mantras. Mantras serve a benefit in terms of helping you to focus your mind and make spiritual progress, but you have to look at the source of the mantra as well. Make sure that it comes from somebody who is enlightened spiritually and not somebody who's out to make money or make profit or benefit from you using that particular mantra as well. So you have to be very careful, sift through it, and also try not to sort of, think logically and think, is this mantra really going to solve cancer? Is it really going to help my money problems? So think logically. Only take mantras. My advice is to take only mantras from people who are spiritually enlightened and not others who you don't know if they've had a spiritual experience or not. So just focus on those rather than from others, I think. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think you got it nicely, Sita. Just to mention that mantras have been a very ancient part of our traditions. Even in the Buddhist tradition, like the Vajrayana tradition of the Tibetan Buddhism, mantras are very powerful. The way you chant them, if it creates positivity in your body, then of course it helps you. Don't forget, a lot of these diseases we have or issues we have with the mental is part of do with how positive we are. If mantras make you positive, of course, it has positive effects in the body as well. But Sita says, be careful with some of the, because I know there's some people online, they have these gurus who actually send you mantras monthly by direct debit. So you pay them money every month, next month they send you a mantra. And they even tell you that if you stop this direct debit, and if you don't send you a mantra, oh, things will go downhill for you. So be careful of such gurus, yeah, who sell you mantras by the month. So be aware. But having said that, in the ancient Rig Vedic tradition, there's some like the Atharvaveda, there's so many different mantras which can create all kinds of things. Now you have to be very careful, think carefully. Would they really help you? Like some mantras are like the dark arts, whatever. Then be very careful what they do. So yeah, take them with logical manner and think about it first. Yeah, as Sita says. Yeah.
Fabulous. So who knows how fast that hour is gone? It's almost 1 hour. We're just a few minutes away. So it's been a very interesting session. The folks online have been very, very active today, both on Facebook and on YouTube. And I just want to say thank you very much for all your interaction, all your kind words, and all the wonderful questions that you have passed on to the team. Today we discussed many, many interesting topics, and I hope that you all found it useful. If your question has not been answered this time round, please come back next week. We will start off with some of the questions that did not get answered this week. Now, before we close, I'd like to just share one or two, wins, which would not be possible without you, the viewers, helping us out at Hindu Academy. So when I started with Jbai, roughly about, I think it was 3 years back, we were at 1 million views on the YouTube channel. But thanks to you all, we are now a strong community. We are at 6.3 million views, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing, because you see a Bollywood song drop in 24 hours, it gets 400 million views. So really speaking, we should be getting many, many more views. But I will celebrate this occasion with you all, because we also have figures on the number of minutes that have been watched. And I can share with you that we are at over 28 million minutes of content watched on this channel. So we have more than 3,000 videos. Many of them are classed into little playlists that you can view. They are little videos that you can see for every person in Hinduism, whether you're looking at just starting off your journey, you're somebody who is fairly confident with your way around Hinduism, or you're an advanced, person who's exploring Hinduism. You have something for you there for sure. So once again, it's just a little thank you from the team here at Hindu Academy to say thank you. And remember the resources that we have available for you. Go to our website, which is hindu-academy.com. We have the Basics of Hinduism e-learning course with over 6,000 members already on it. It is free to join. We have the Advanced Hinduism course for IGCSE students, that if you are an IGCSE student anywhere around the world, you can enroll in it. The amazing statistic is that all the students from our last batch of IGCSE exams, they all were A stars, thanks to Vijay Hirani and his team, who've been doing a great job of teaching and mentoring them. But the resources are available for anybody for free. We also have the ebooks, which you can download from the very same website. And we've got details about the WhatsApp groups that you can get onto, so you can get little 3-minute videos of inspiration on a daily basis. So with that, I'm not going to take up much time. I'll just share the screen with my team here at Hindu Academy and wish you all a great week ahead. But we will catch you at the same time next week on Saturday at 2 o'clock. Bye-bye for